Hi there, this is Debbie Nicholson. I'm the Director of Community Outreach for BeatCancer, and I'm with you today to speak with one of our wonderful coaches. This is Paul Schmitendorf. He's in Colorado, and we're going to find out a little bit about him, and we're lucky to have him here today. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good afternoon, Deborah. It's great to be here. Thanks for the short intro. A little bit about me is that I really got interested in nutrition probably 10 or 12 years ago when I saw a talk given by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. It really brought home some of the key points about nutrition and eating a high nutritionally dense diet. And right around that same time, I also stumbled on a book called Beating Cancer Gently by Bill Henderson. And that kind of tied in the relationship between nutrition and cancer. So I've always had a really strong interest in nutrition and then also how it can help to prevent and impact cancer. So this is 10 or 12 years ago. So then when 2017 rolled around, I stumbled on the cancer certification course at the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. So I signed up and I took the course. I also had the opportunity to actually go to the office and volunteer for 3 days. And so just did some helping out around the office, did some mailings and things like that. But it's pretty cool to meet Carl and actually be in the office, which is, the center for this operation. So, but since I've done the certification program, I've continued to develop my knowledge. I feel like if I have one real coach is extensive knowledge about nutrition and how nutrition can really help anybody with cancer, or again, to prevent cancer from happening in the first place. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background. And I gave a cancer prevention talk for the first time earlier this month. It was about a 45-minute presentation called Beat Cancer with Your Fork. It's a presentation originally put together by Dr. Susan Silberstein. And so it was a great experience to prepare and practice and then deliver this talk. And it was wonderful to see the reaction of people. They were very interested in what I had to say. Some people were taking notes. There's a lot of people that wanted to come up afterwards and continue to ask questions and have a discussion. So one of the parts of my mission is to do more of these cancer prevention talks and just reach out and try to shed some light on what for a lot of people is somewhat of a confusing topic.
Yeah, when you start to really see how fascinating the body is and its ability to heal, and what we can do to help with that process, you want to share that. It's really an amazing thing. So that's wonderful that you're helping with prevention talks. That's really great, because
absolutely,
it's better to prevent than to have to cure. So the more we can put that message forth, the better. Absolutely.
And as one of the key statistics put forth by the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education, which is that 90% of all cancers are preventable through diet, lifestyle,
absolutely,
environmental choices. So there's great science and a great study that shows how this statistic was arrived at. And it's really important for people to know in general that cancer is a highly preventable disease. And I think there's a large portion of the population that looks at cancer as something that's determined a lot more by family genetics, the family history, maybe just luck or chance. So if people start to learn that it's preventable, it's a big step in the right direction.
It's really true. And I think the industry has wanted us to feel like we have no power in the healing process. That, right, it's our genetics, or they're not sure how we got cancer. But that's really not true. The truth is that it really is preventable, and with lifestyle change and diet changes and other changes, we can heal. Our bodies are capable of healing. Doctors don't heal us, we heal ourselves. Our bodies heal. So I think it's interesting because I know you wanted to talk some about that, about what it's like to heal when you're being proactive and you feel that you have a part in the process of healing, like you're in the driver's seat more, and the difference in healing when that's not the case. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was really interesting that I had an airplane flight a couple months ago. I had this interesting short interaction. I was reading over some cancer prevention articles on the airplane, and the man sitting next to me suddenly leaned over and said, "Excuse me, do you have cancer?" And I said, "No, but I'm a holistic cancer coach, and I'm always reading up on various information about cancer." And then he told me that he recently had cancer and had it surgically removed at the Stanford University Cancer Center. And then he also shared with me that he was feeling pretty good and pretty healthy, but was also worried because every 6 months going forward, he was going to have to go in for a checkup and also do some testing to find out whether or not his cancer had returned. And so this is going to be an ongoing worry for him. So I then asked him if they gave him any type of game plan to prevent cancer from recurring. And it was strange. He looked at me with a sort of a blank stare on his face, like such a game plan didn't even exist. So it was pretty disheartening to hear him say, "No, I don't have a game plan, and I'm pretty much doing everything the same as far as diet and lifestyle and exercise and stress management." And it really brings home the point that that people really need to have some type of game plan in place, and they really need to figure out, if they've had cancer once before, to figure out what got them in trouble in the first place, because that's a key factor in taking steps towards preventing recurrence. But this guy really brings home the point of, he's a person who didn't really have any type of game plan. He was taking a very passive role. And so one of the things I want to emphasize in this podcast, whether people have already had cancer or they're just thinking about the fact that they want to take steps to prevent cancer, is it's a huge step just to take an active role and to think about and put steps in place and put lifestyle things that we do on a daily and weekly basis to stack the odds in our favor of preventing cancer.
Absolutely. And that's pretty multifaceted.
It really is. I mean, we can go into a lot of detail about some of the lifestyle keys and, things like exercise and smoking and stress management and getting enough vitamin D, and also thinking about what we're putting on our skin. But really also one of the most key factors is diet and nutrition. And I bring up the word terrain. I brought this up when I did the presentation to introduce the idea of thinking about our internal system as an internal terrain that can be, it can be clean, it can be alkaline. You can have a really clean digestive system that moves food through the body, or we can be toxic, we can be acidic, we can have a lot of undigested food in our system, but we can't see this. So for this podcast, I put together just these 2 jars here that illustrate a clean environment and a sort of a toxic and acidic environment. And the wonderful thing about the human system is that we can move from a clean environment to toxic if we're not putting the right things in our body. But if we're in a acidic, in a toxic state where we're not digesting food and we're maybe overweight and carrying extra weight, that if we take the proper steps with our nutrition and our food intake and exercise and other things, that we can go from here to here in a relatively short period of time. And when I say short period of time, weeks or months of putting together a nutritionally sound game plan can help people move from a toxic environment that is an environment that encourages cancer cell growth to a more alkaline environment that makes it almost impossible for cancer cells to
You
grow.
want to tell people some of the foods that make you acidic versus foods that make you alkaline and what that means?
Sure. Well, some of the foods that make us acidic are things like the processed foods, junk foods. Dairy and meat are also a consideration. A lot of people are now familiar with the China study, which is the largest nutritional study ever done. And one of the key conclusions from that study by T. Colin Campbell was that what he found was that animal protein tends to turn cancer on, while plant protein turns the cancer off. So avoiding some of these acidic things, also soda pops and sugar.
And I believe coffee and alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol, of course, is another one too.
Eating coffee.
But coffee,
One of
yeah,
my favorites.
Most everybody loves coffee, so taking coffee in moderation or not necessarily first thing in the morning can be a factor too. But when we look at alkaline foods, we're looking at predominantly a plant-based diet. So a lot of times I'll tell people to try to attempt or look towards setting up a diet that's 90% plant-based. So we're talking about fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds. So if people can achieve 90% food intake from those plant-based foods, they're really setting themselves up to have an alkaline environment. And for people that still love to have a piece of meat here and there, or they want to have a dessert or a birthday cake, or have a couple beers on the weekend, they can still do it and enjoy it. But if they're really able to get 90% plant-based diet, then they're really setting themselves up to have a really robust and alkaline environment in their system.
Absolutely. That's great advice. With a lot of different colors from all different fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. I mean, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, there's all the colors of the rainbow are available at the grocery store. We mentioned cruciferous vegetables in another podcast, but cruciferous vegetables are a great thing to put in the system on a regular basis. All the greens, such as kale, collard greens, spinach, those can be consumed on a regular basis. Also, onions, leeks, garlic are a family of cancer-fighting foods that we can easily put into our system. Berries are another wonderful group, putting blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Those are all wonderful. And then there's mushrooms. There are now over 100 different types of mushrooms that are being studied. And it's interesting to note, too, that in Japan, at some of their cancer centers, they actually include shiitake and maitake mushrooms as part of the protocol in some of their cancer centers. So putting mushrooms into the system, which have been studied heavily in relation to breast cancer. So for women that want to impact their internal terrain in a way that prevents breast cancer, consuming mushrooms on a regular basis can be really helpful. So other things such as green tea, other fruits such as apples, grapes, tomatoes, watermelon, also wonderful foods to put in the body. One of the books that's featured on the Beat Cancer website is Kitchen Chemotherapy, and it really gets into probably over 100 different types of foods in the fruits, mostly fruits and vegetables, and some of the scientific studies behind them, which of these foods impact the body in different ways, what type of nutrients do they have that are helpful to the body. So if people want to take the time to do their own reading and their own research, doing your own reading and research is a great way to take steps where you're taking control of your internal terrain and your overall health picture. So we talked about this man I sat next to on the plane who didn't really have a plan. He's also feeling worried and feeling like he's not really in control. Like he's just going to show up every 6 months for this checkup and find out whether or not he has cancer. People can begin to take control when they know what they're putting in their body and they're also taking the time to build their own knowledge base. And there's so much information available on the Beat Cancer website as far as articles, podcasts, books, so on and so forth. There's just a wealth of information that people can build on to really put themselves in a position to create an active role in preventing cancer.
I think having a coach, is such a wonderful thing too, because they can share a lot of education, especially in the areas where somebody's specific goals are. And then there's accountability, and there's somebody there to help you with support every step of the way. And I think it's a really important support factor that will help you with direction, and will help you feel that you have an effective plan in place. So I encourage people to go to our site under Find a Coach, and you can either look in your area, or you can look at people's profiles and click on Learn More About this coach and see who resonates with you. Some people have specific skills in certain areas. I mean, Paul, you have a lot of nutrition information and education. We sprouted broccoli sprouts on another podcast, so a lot of good recipes and ideas about how to eat the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think a lot of times people start beginning to think of getting a holistic cancer coach when they've already have cancer, and they're like, okay, now I really have to, I have to figure this out, and I need all the help I can get, and so they start searching for somebody that can help them, which is great. But these coaches, and there's over 200 of them now on our site, also can help anybody put together a cancer prevention game plan, as I've been talking about. And so a lot of these people are also available to come and give a talk. And so there's people all over the country. So if you have a group of people, or maybe it's just your extended family, you have a dozen people, that you can put together a couple-hour program with one of these coaches, where they can come over and give you a talk, or give you have a discussion and put together a simple game plan, and really help your whole family or a group of friends to expand their knowledge and really start taking active steps in preventing cancer.
Absolutely. Especially with our youth, I think to have the kids and not just the adults after there's a problem. It's so nice to start with the children and have the whole family eating the right way, because everybody understands why they're doing that. So again, prevention is the key, and that's a great message.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And again,
thank you, Deborah. It was great discussion, and I just want to again encourage everybody out there to take steps, take an active role in preventing cancer, because together, with an active approach, we can start the path to defeating cancer.
Absolutely. We can heal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.